In this video, we'll explore how different organizations shape our society and government. We'll see what makes interest groups and political parties unique, how they work together, why they matter in the Philippines, and the challenges they face, along with some ways to improve their impact. Let us begin by clarifying what we mean when we speak of interest group type organizations, such as institutes, societal associations, pressure or advocacy groups, versus party based or state oriented institutions. According to the textbook Introduction to Political Science, an interest group is defined as an organized collection of individuals who work to influence government and policy. They often form voluntarily based on shared concerns or interests. These can be economic interests, such as business groups, labor unions, professional associations, and agricultural groups, or non economic ones, such as public interest groups, single issue, civil rights, and ideological groups. By contrast, a political party is defined as a group of people who share a common political ideology and work to get their members elected into government. Political parties not only mobilize support and resources, but also recruit and nominate candidates, organize campaigns, and aim for governance. However, the distinction is not always clean or sufficient under a simple definition. For example, in the article Political Parties, Diminished Subtypes and Democracy, Luna argues that many organizations that label themselves as parties meet only a minimalist definition. Examples: contest elections and get some votes, but lack two essential attributes. First, horizontal coordinations of politicians during campaigns and while in office, and second, vertical aggregation of collective social interests and demands. Thus, there are important definitional differences in scope, functions, and structure. To simplify the latter definitions, interest group type organizations are primarily about influence. Influencing public policy, representing particular interests, advocating for issues, but not seeking to govern directly. Party-based and or state-oriented institutions, on the other hand, aim for power. They aggregate diverse interests broadly, compete in elections, and aim to govern and formulate public policy through control of the state. Because of these differences in purpose, membership, and strategy, the two types occupy different but sometimes overlapping roles in political system.
Functions in society and governance. So the functions of governance in society include maintaining order, ensuring justice, and promote the general welfare through development and implementation of laws and policies. So we have the functions of governance. First is to maintain order and security. Governments create laws and enforce them to ensure public safety and prevent conflict. Second, ensure justice. This involves establishing judicial system to settle disputes according to law and ensuring laws and are applied equitable. Third is promote general welfare. This includes provide public services and infrastructure like road, public education, and utilities to improve citizens' quality of life. Fourth is manage resources and power. Governance provide a framework for managing societal resources and a system for the legitimate exercise of power, often through distinct branches of government, like legislative, executive, and the judiciary. Fifth is foster economic and social development. Governments played a vital role in driving development through policies and initiatives that promote economic growth and social well-being. Six is provide for basic needs. Societies must ensure members have access to food, water, and other necessities, a function supported by system for production and distribution managed through governance. We have the two types major of function in society and governance. First, we have the functions of interest groups. We have the type of organization. They act as intermediaries between citizens, demands, and policymakers. As the 2025 interest groups played a vital role in representative democracies by articulating and aggregating the demands, channeling them to decision makers. And also, they raise awareness, represent specific or minority interest, and provide a voice for groups that might otherwise to be marginalized with civil rights, environmental, professional, and ideological. Second, functions of party-based, state-oriented instructions. They aggregate diverse and sometimes collective interest into coherent platforms broad enough to attract large electorates. This helps transform localized or fragmented demands into broad policy packages that can govern. As a basic definition, political parties provide structure for electoral competition and for forming governments, and also the mediate between civil society, including interest group inputs and state institution, ideally converting social demands into public policies and ensuring representation at the level of state. And also, we have the comparative complementary functions. Importantly, interest groups and parties can complement each other. Our interest group organization channels specific demands and specific expertise. Parties create broad interest and provide a path to governance. This interplay between the two is to help a political system remain responsive to both particular and general concerns.
Good day, everyone. So now I will discuss how interest group, institutions, and party-based or state institutions interact. These political actors play important roles in shaping policies and influencing governance. Their interaction is not simple, rather it is complex, dynamic, and constantly changing. So first, these organizations sometimes work collaboratively. Interest groups often support political parties that share their goals. They do this by providing information, helping with membership mobilization, and sometimes offering campaign resources or contributions. According to the study Setting the Party Agenda, interest groups, voters, issue attention, political parties actually adjust their policy agendas when interest group priorities match what the voters want. This shows that interest groups can strongly influence the issues that parties focus on. However, interest groups do not always cooperate with parties. Sometimes they act as checkers or challengers operating outside formal government structures. They may engage in lobbying, mobilization citizens, and pushing for specific policies without seeking political office themselves. And because they advocate in areas like environmental issues, digital rights, or financial regulation, they are not neutral. Their work reflects the interests they represent. These two institutions also co-evolve, meaning they influence one another over time. Based on the Oxford Handbook's chapter linking political parties and interest groups can feed issues into parties, act as brokers between society and political leaders, shape party organization, and sometimes even become institutionalized within parties. This shows that parties and interest groups are deeply interconnected. But this relationship is not always stable. The idea of diminished subtypes of parties explains that not all parties are effective at organizing or aggregating public interest. When this happens, the connection between citizens' demands, often expressed through interest groups and not actual government policies, becomes weak. In conclusion, the interaction between interest groups and political parties varies widely. Depending on the context, they may collaborate, compete, cooperate with each other, or stay loosely connected. Together, they form part of a broader policy network or political ecosystem, along with civil society organizations, state institutions, and citizens. Thank you.
So next, we have the significance of the Philippines or similar countries. The comparison matters for countries like the Philippines because its plural and developing democratic context relies heavily on interest groups to represent diverse sectors such as labor, farmers, youth, indigenous peoples, and environmental advocates more effectively than individuals can. This strengthens political inclusion. However, political parties in the Philippines often struggle with weak institutionalization and personality-driven politics, making Luna's idea of diminished subtypes highly relevant. Because many parties lack stable structures, the role of interest groups becomes even more important in filling representation gaps. A balanced democratic system requires both strong interest groups and strong programmatic political parties. When interest groups dominate without strong parties, representation may become biased toward well-resourced sectors. Strengthening both civil society organizations and institutionalized parties can create a more inclusive, responsive, and accountable governance system. In essence, the comparison shows that neither interest groups nor political parties alone are enough. A healthy democracy needs both, tailored to the Philippine context. So, for the Philippines, an effective political system requires the complementary strengths of both interest groups, providing issue-based representation, and institutionalized political parties, offering broad political direction. Understanding this balance is essential for improving governance and ensuring that all sectors of society are truly represented.
Even though interest group institutions and political parties play a crucial role in the governance in society, they face significant challenges in the Philippines. First, unequal representation and influence of interest groups. Not all interest groups in the Philippines have the same access to power. Well-renowned elites or business-oriented groups are often dominant or dominate the policy influence, while grassroots and marginalized and informal sectors or organizations struggle to make their voice. Example, organizations such as the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry or PCCI and the Federation of Filipino Chinese Chamber of Commerce have a significant sway in shaping the economic policies, tax, and litigation. In contrast, small farmers or small associations or informal sectors of workers such as vendors and local cooperative groups often lack resources or legal recognition to effectively lobby their needs. And this creates a bias to the policymaking where government decisions may favor sectors with more lobby power, leaving the marginalized groups underrepresented. Solution: encourage a formation and institutionalize of grassroots organization. For instance, support Kalusugang Mamubukid ng Pilipinas or KMP and local cooperatives to participate in the policymaking. Provide for funding capacity in building and ensure consolidation in national and local development plans. Weak institutionalization and personality-driven political parties. Many Philippine political parties are centered around personalities or short-term alliances rather than consistent ideologies or platforms. This reduces the effectiveness of parties in aggregating diverse social interests and providing a stable governance. Example, like PDP Laban, Lakas MD, and Nationalista Party often form alliance based on electoral convenience rather than a shared principle. This leads to shifting loyalties in the Congress or local government units, therefore making it difficult for the citizen to hold parties accountable to their actions or tracking long-term policy agendas. Now, parties fail to provide coherence or representation of the citizens' interests, weakening the link between the society and the state. So it also discourages issue-based voting and promotes opportunistic politics. Solution: strengthen the party institutionalization by encouraging programmatic platforms, stable internal structures, and a clear membership rules. A party list system can also be leveraged to support sectorial representation. Example like Bayan Muna for poor or Gabriela for women, rather than serving a mere electoral vehicles for politicians. Third, disconnecting between interest groups, advocacy, and policy implementation. Even when interest groups organize effectively, their policy priorities may not align with the party's agenda or national electoral focus. Additionally, it weakens the mechanism exist to translate advocacy into an actual policy change. Example, environmental groups like Haribon Foundation or Greenpeace Philippines actively campaign for climate actions and biodiversity protection. However, national elections often prioritize infrastructure, economic growth, and populist program, leading to environmental concerns being a sideline in legation or budget allocations. Similarly, labor groups may advocate for higher wages, but economic pressures and business lobby dilutes this policy impact. Therefore, citizens' concerns are sometimes ignored despite active advocacy, leading to frustration and decrease of trust in both parties and civil society organization. Solution: foster a stronger party group collaboration with a transparency and accountability measures. Institutionalize public consultation process where interest groups provide input on bills or development plans. Civic education campaigns can also raise awareness about the importance of long-term policy issues, increasing public pressure for more responsive governance. In summary, no, in the Philippine context, there are three main challenges: unequal interest group influence, weak party institutionalization, and disconnect between advocacy and policy. No? Hinder both representation and democratic responsiveness. Addressing these challenges requires support for grassroots groups, institutionalized and programmatic political parties, and a mechanism ensures an interest group's voice is translate into a real policy outcome.